Good evening, everybody, and welcome. I call this March 9, 2021 virtual admin meeting of the Bernalillo County Commissioners to order. And this evening, we will have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner O'Malley. Tonight's invocation is dedicated to State Representative Edward Sandoval. Commissioner O'Malley would like to share a few words in memory of Representative Sandoval.
Thank you, Madam Chair. During the moment of silence, I ask that we keep in mind and send our thoughts and prayers to the family of former New Mexico State Representative Edward Sandoval, who very effectively and with great cariño represented the North Valley for 30 years in the state legislature. He passed away last Wednesday after a long battle with COVID-19. He was 74. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Madam Chair, if I may continue, use my point of privilege just to say a few personal words about Representative Sandoval. I met him through my friend and predecessor, Councilor Vince Grego, and his wife, Sandra. Former City Councilor Grego was a longtime public official as well. And of course, the city chambers, the council chambers bear his name. And he and Ed were best friends, and they worked together to get much needed resources to the North Valley, which include millions of dollars in funding for numerous projects, from parks, community centers, open space, to flood infrastructure. And they were quite a team, and together with former State Representative Rick Mieta and Senator Dee Feldman, they brought home a lot of goods, or the bacon, if you will say. Ed and Vince knew all the longtime families in the Valley, including mine, and they were very generous with me, with their time with me when I was running for office for the first time. Ed Sandoval was a man to know, as probably former legislator Ken Martinez knows. He was in charge of capital outlay. And when I would go up to see him during the legislative session, he would typically say, it was about time that I came to see him, and that I only came up here for money, and maybe it was too late to get any. So we had to do a little dance for a little bit, and then he would soften up and we would have a really good visit. He was an endearingly gruff and very generous man. And a priority for him was getting a permanent home for the North Valley Little League. And I was glad he was able to see that happen. It's a beautiful complex. It's a county complex. And it was built a few years ago, and it bears his name. He loved being a public official. That was his life, really. And I know it was hard for him to retire, but his health began to slow him down. So I will always be grateful for him, as will so many, for his service to the community and the state. And my heart goes out to Loretta, his wife, his daughter, Christina, and their grandchildren during this very difficult time. I also want to thank and acknowledge them too, because as we know, many of us would not be able to do this work without the support of our families. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I did not meet the deadline for acknowledgement for the agenda, but we'll prepare one to give to his, for the next meeting, to give to his family. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Malley, for that wonderful tribute to Representative Ed Sandoval. And so moving on, Madam County Manager, are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. We just have one. So 3A, General and Specialty Legal Services, to be added to the agenda as item 9H, as in Henry, on the consent agenda, and a vote is required for the change. Thank you.
Okay, so I will move to approve that change in the agenda, moving 3A added as consent item 9H. Is there a second?
Aye.
I'm not sure who I saw first. I think it was Commissioner O'Malley seconded that. And so all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Barboa.
Aye.
Commissioner Benson.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Malley.
Aye.
Vice Chair Posada.
Aye.
Madam Chair Piscotti.
Aye. So that passes unanimously. And now on to proclamations. And I will be presenting the first one. It's our COVID-19 proclamation. Um, so acknowledging on March 17, 2020, the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners first convened to declare a state of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic, when at the time there were 14 cases in the county. And acknowledging this March marks the 1 year anniversary of the COVID-19 pandemic. And in that time, there have been over 52,500 cases in Bernalillo County and over 850 deaths. And acknowledging the departments and employees of Bernalillo County have worked diligently to serve the community in creative ways, continuing much of the county's traditional programming while providing unique resources for the pandemic. And acknowledging the Parks and Recreation Department has offered numerous recreational programs such as virtual summer recreation and a winter virtual camp, providing over 100 videos for virtual and home activities, distributing 4,900 arts and crafts kits at community center drives, hosting 3 drive-through events for crafts and holiday snack giveaways, and acknowledging economic development has earned a special award from New Mexico counties for its administration of COVID-19 assistance grants, including over $8 million distributed in small business grants and $239,000 in patio grants under the Federal CARES Act, and will manage $5 million in emergency rent relief and distribute over $1 million in hardship payments to Bernalillo County families. And acknowledging the Office of Emergency Management has provided a wealth of services to respond to the pandemic, supporting numerous COVID-19 testing sites, providing poll workers with personal protective equipment and sanitation supplies in the June primary and November general elections, and supporting vaccination sites at the Raymond G. Sanchez Center, Community Center, Parks and Recreation Department, and National Hispanic Cultural Center. Now therefore be it resolved that the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners does hereby acknowledge those Bernalillo County residents who have lost their lives to the COVID-19 pandemic and encourage a heartfelt remembrance of them and their grieving families, while also recognizing Bernalillo County government employees for stepping up to do their jobs in extraordinary ways to ensure that programs and services continue. A special thank you to all first responders who made unique sacrifices to care for a community in crisis. Done this 9th day of March 2021 in Bernalillo County, state of New Mexico, and signed by all the commissioners. So thank you. I thought it was important to acknowledge this 1 year anniversary. Thank you. And so moving on, Commissioner Vice Chair Casada, recognition of selfless seniors.
Thank you, Madam Chair, fellow commissioners. It's my great pleasure to do the certificate of recognition to our APS 2021 selfless seniors. A senior of the Albuquerque Public Schools who has dedicated themselves to community service, kindness, and inspiring their peers, recognized in 2021 for positive difference that they have created in the community. You are known as selfless seniors. Your service to the community includes invaluable time and energy for making a difference without expectation or need for recognition. You and your peers have made immeasurable differences by advocating for mental health absent days in public schools, starting small businesses that donate to charity, catering, tutoring, diners where students could get free tutoring and families can get nutritious food, volunteering for local cat and dog rescues, and much more. Your service represents the philanthropic spirit of the students of Albuquerque Public Schools and encourages each student and each citizen to follow in your example of kindness and community service. We thank you for your dedication to the community of Bernalillo County. Presented this day, March 9th, 2021, to Sofia Rio Chavez from Albuquerque High School, Griselda Montes from Atrisco Heritage Academy High School, Taylor Christensen from Cibola High School, Cameron Ortega from Del Norte High School, Melina Burguin from El Dorado High School, Ariana Margana Ramirez from Highland High School, Maura Johnson from La Cuerva High School, Anaya Teague from Manzano High School, Tyler Chavez from Rio Grande High School, Sarah Rutherford from Sandia High School, Isaiah Baca from Valley High School, Jade Mendoza from Volcano Vista High School, and Natalia Hernandez from West Mesa High School, and Francescus Miles from New Future School. And with that, yeah, for sure. A little round of applause for all those great students. They don't do it for recognition, so we recognize them for it, right? Because that's the kind of people that we want to recognize, people who don't do it for recognition. So we're very proud of those seniors. I know APS is always extremely proud of their selfless seniors every year, and it's an honor for us. But I want to add another certificate of recognition, Madam Chair, and that is to Frank Frost. Frank Frost is the photographer who donates his time to the selfless seniors and does photographs, and they always do these really great displays of all the things that these seniors do. So for your vision and dedication to the creation of longevity of the selfless seniors programs of the Albuquerque Public Schools, 13 years ago, you approached Albuquerque Public Schools with a plan to honor high school students who serve important causes and assist those in the need of our community. Each year since Frank Frost Photography has donated the portraits and images for Selfless Seniors program that allows Albuquerque Public Schools to celebrate these seniors throughout the district. These portraits are shown at schools, businesses, and the Albuquerque International Sunport. Each display encourages citizens to selflessly serve our community. Your service represents the philanthropic, they made me say that twice, spirit of Bernalillo County and community, and inspires citizens and students each year to follow these examples of community service. Presented this day, March 9th, 2021, to Mr. Frank Frost. You know, it's the businesses that get behind these programs, especially when it comes to APS, that make them successful. As you know, we always are looking at budget and what we have money for and what we don't have money for. APS has to do the same thing, but they always want to make sure that we recognize the students that go up above and beyond, and the businesses that also go above and beyond to support our students. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for highlighting the wonderful selfless seniors. And
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, and Mr. Vice Chair, we do have Ms. Shannon Barnhill on the line as well.
Oh, great. That's awesome.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Commissioner Quesada, Madam Chair, and commissioners and fellow citizens that are watching this evening. I just want to say on behalf of the APS Education Foundation and our 14 amazing 2021 selfless seniors, I want to sincerely thank you for recognizing their service of these incredible soon-to-be graduates for this unique senior year that they have had to tolerate, not missing out on so many recognitions and just the celebration that comes along with being a senior. So thank you so much. You know, 13 years ago, Frank Frost came to us and started this amazing program because he just realized that there are so many students in the community who are contributing a tremendous amount of really good work. And, you know, Frank would say it was not to honor those that are already in the spotlight, like a quarterback of the football team or a valedictorian. These were truly kids that were, you know, selflessly giving back to their community and their peers without any expectation for praise. And so I want to just say, we tell each selfless seniors class that they represent their respective schools and a philanthropic spirit of all the students that grace the hallways of their school. So hopefully April 5th, they'll be able to see all of those schoolmates. And we appreciate everything that they do, because they not only represent their schools, but they are here to show elementary school students, middle school students, this is what you can do for your community. And so now, due to this amazing proclamation and recognition from the county, they can also represent the spirit of the Bernalillo County and make Bernalillo County a better place to live. So thank you very much, and congratulations to our selfless seniors this year.
Thank you so much, Ms. Barnhill. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? I just want to add, I can't wait until we can be back in person and shake everybody's hand again. So if any of the selfless seniors are watching, I just congratulations, and I wish I could shake your hand. So catch me after the pandemic and I will do so. Okay, so moving on. Board and committee appointments, there are none. Public comment and communications. Julianne, how many do we have signed up?
So we have one signed up this evening, Ms. Carol Emboto.
So I will go ahead and read the instructions. You will have 90 seconds to share your comments. You will then be notified when your time is up. You will then be muted and moved to the waiting room. Should any of the commissioners have follow-up questions to your comments, you will have an opportunity to answer. So go ahead and unmute Carol and Bobo. Go ahead, Carol.
Good evening. Thank you, Commissioner Piscotti, and thank you, commissioners, for this opportunity to address you. I would like to thank you for your concern for our community and your efforts on the behalf of Bernalillo County. Tonight, I would like to make a suggestion. I don't know if I'm working in the proper form, but I would hope that you would do this to protect the future of our community. I'm speaking of the dramatic and expansive views along the Paseo del Norte corridor, stretching from Tramway to far on the west side. The views are breathtaking, something that is very unique to our community, to Albuquerque and to Bernalillo County. I would like to suggest that such a wonderful resource be protected, and I ask you to work with the city of Albuquerque and make this a designated scenic corridor to protect these views from unnecessary intrusions in the visual plane. Thank you. And I hope that you will fund a substation in the North Albuquerque acres, because it's definitely needed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Carol. And so that concludes public comment. On to approval of minutes. I move to approve the February 23rd, 2021 administrative meeting minutes. Do I have a second? Commissioner Casada seconds. Thank you. All in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Barboa,
Aye.
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
Mr. O'Malley,
Aye.
Vice Chair Casada,
Aye.
Madam Chair Piscotti.
Aye.
So called.
Thank you. And next, on to approval of consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please provide a resolution number for item 9D.
Yes, ma'am. 9D, number 2 is FR 2021-21.
Thank you. I move to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second? Commissioner O'Malley seconds. All in favor indicate aye. Thank you. And Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Barboa,
Aye.
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Aye.
Vice Chair Casada,
Aye.
Madam Chair Piscotti.
Aye. And so the consent agenda passes unanimously. Now on to adoption of ordinance amendment to county code. Madam Clerk, please issue an ordinance number.
Yes, 10A is ordinance number 2021-7.
Thank you. And this is for industrial revenue bond for American Gypsum Company LLC. Julianne, has anyone signed up for public hearing?
No, there's not been anybody signed up for this item.
Okay, so Mei Ling, would you like to present on this?
Marcos is going to present tonight, Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead, Marcos.
Madam Chairwoman and members of the Commission, I'm Marcos Gonzalez, Assistant Director for the Economic Development Department. The Economic Development staff recommends the approval of the ordinance authorizing the Bernalillo County Commission to approve an industrial revenue bond application on behalf of American Gypsum Company, LLC, in the amount of $22 million. The ordinance approves the issuance of the bonds, as well as the bond documents, indenture, lease agreement, and bond purchase agreement. I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner.
I want to thank Mei Ling and Marcos for their work on this particular application, and I would like to move approval.
Okay, so moved. Commissioner Barboa, are you seconding or asking? a
Yeah,
question?
second.
Seconded by Commissioner Barboa. All in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
And thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Barboa,
Aye.
Commissioner Benson,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Aye.
Vice Chair Casada,
Aye.
Madam Chair Piscotti.
Aye.
So
So
called.
it passes unanimously. Next, adoption of resolution. Madam Clerk, please issue a resolution number for 11A.
Yes, ma'am. 11A is AR 2021-30.
Okay, thank you. And so this is the 2021 Federal Legislative Policy Resolution. Clay Campbell, would you like to present?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. Clay Campbell, Chief of Staff to the County Manager. Annually around this time of the year, the Commission is asked to consider a resolution that outlines the county's federal policy priorities. So that's what's before you this evening. Our federal resolution accomplishes three primary things. One is it helps articulate to the federal delegation and federal agencies what our priorities are. Secondly, it helps us hone in on some grants to pursue that come from Washington, D.C. And third, it also helps inform agencies of Bernalillo County's programmatic needs so that future grant opportunities might be aligned. So that's how we work with this resolution once you all adopt it. So what's before you in terms of content is focusing on 5 general areas. The first is behavioral health, and with a special focus on youth, housing, and homelessness. And we have 5 specific items that is in your packet under behavioral health. The second topic is criminal justice and adult detention reform, which is focused on funding, data sharing, and some other program and grant development items. And we also have 5 specific items there under that topic. The third one is transportation, infrastructure, and water. We have surface transportation issues, the jet fuel spill at the Air Force Base, and broadband are 4 specific items there in that item. We have community development, which focuses on 2 general items. And then lastly, we have a section on COVID-19, and it focuses on all things related to COVID recovery, many of which is outlined in the rescue plan bill that's under consideration right now in Congress. So after passage of this resolution, our federal lobbyist MMO partners will set up a series of Zoom meetings starting in April with relevant federal agencies and the delegation to discuss the resolution contents and then move forward on it. I stand for any questions you may have this evening.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, I will move to approve Administrative Resolution AR 2021-30, establishing Bernalillo County's 2021 Federal Legislative Policy Priorities. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Barboa seconds. Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, I need to make a correction. I couldn't read my writing. 9D is 2021-29, not 21.
Thank you.
It was my writing. I apologize. Okay, roll call.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barboa,
Aye.
Commissioner Benson,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Aye.
Vice Chair Casada,
Aye.
Madam Chair Piscotti.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And moving on to approvals. The pool property, city open space. Commissioner O'Malley, would you like to talk about this item a little bit?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This particular acquisition has been in the news for a while now, and it's something that the city of Albuquerque is working with the state to acquire. Can't think of the acreage now, but it's very sensitive property. It's part of the Oxbow. And so Councilor Borrego reached out to me a couple of weeks ago, maybe no, it was mostly likely, I think it was a week ago, and asked if we would help to fund the gap. It looks like they do have an agreement with the owner / developer. And I said I would request the gap funding is $100,000 from the county commission at our next meeting. And so I think it's a very important property. I agree with that. It is in my district, but it has regional significance. And it's a very sensitive property, as I said. Of course, it has a lot of support from the surrounding community as well. So I appreciate support, and I would like to move approval.
Okay. And
Madam Chair?
yeah, Commissioner Casada.
Yeah, I just have a question. So it's just gonna be open space? They're not gonna, are they gonna do some development and then open space, or it's just gonna be all preserved for open space?
Commissioner, I don't really know the total amount that they're acquiring. This agreement they have, I'm not privy to the details. I know that they were trying to preserve as much as they could, especially against the river. And so I honestly can't answer that question. I know that they came to an agreement. It's not inexpensive. I mean, we're talking about over $6 million. So, but they got a big chunk of it from the state, and they just approved almost, I think, $2 million, the city council, to acquire it. So I'm sorry, but I can't really answer that.
That's okay. That's all right, yeah, Commissioner. I can make a call to Cynthia Borrego, but I definitely support it. And any open space that we can preserve forever, I'm totally on board of that, as you know. So you got my support, sure.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, yeah, I would like to say that I also support it. I think that it's such a unique part of that ecosystem there that it certainly deserves to be preserved. So Commissioner O'Malley, I think you moved to approve one-time allocation of $100,000 from the general fund to support City of Albuquerque acquisition of the pool property to become a public open space, and authorize the county manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement and any future amendments hereto with the city to transfer the $100,000 to the city. So I will go ahead and second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Barboa,
Aye.
Commissioner Benson,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Aye.
Vice Chair Casada,
Aye.
Madam Chair Piscotti.
Aye. So that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And now on to Planning and Development Services, procedures for nuisance abatement hearing officer, Lucas Tafoya, to present. Go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Thank you, Lucas Tafoya, Director for the Planning and Development Services Department. The nuisance abatement ordinance was passed last year in 2020, and within that ordinance, it requires that the hearing officer promulgate rules and have those rules approved by the Board of County Commissioners. So that's why we're here. Our nuisance hearing officer is our zoning administrator, and has worked with the legal department to draft these rules. So they are pretty inclusive of quite some detail going on in there in regards to filing pleadings, status conferences, options for teleconferencing, continuances, witnesses, and powers of the hearing officer. So we are just looking to get to this next step in the hearing off or the nuisance abatement ordinance, so that we can start moving forward with these cases and addressing these properties. That's all I have. I stand for questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Seeing no questions, I will move to approve the rules of procedures for the nuisance abatement hearing officer. Is there a second? Commissioner Casada, Vice Chair Casada seems to be seconding over there. Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, work your magic on that roll call.
Commissioner Barboa,
Aye.
Commissioner Benson,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Aye.
Vice Chair Casada,
Aye.
Madam Chair Piscotti.
Aye. Thank you. That passes unanimously. And now moving right along to discussion. I had asked for an update on the Tiny Home Village project. I know that a lot has happened since the last time we talked about it. So it looks like Brian Lopez and Bernadette Miera to present. So please give us the update on the Tiny Home Village project.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I'm Brian Lopez, Technical Services Director with Public Works. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and show the presentation that Bernadette and myself put together. Can everybody see my screen?
No.
Let's try this again. One moment, please.
Brian, let me know if you need my assistance, if I need to pull it up for you.
Julianne, would you mind, please? I am not sure what's going on over here. It's coming up on my screen, but then it's splitting it into two, and I'm not sure why it's doing that when I click on share screen.
Okay, just give me a second.
I apologize. Technology, it's always fun.
Normally us in Public Works are up on the technology, but this video stuff just messes with us.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes. So do you mind, Julie, can you go ahead and start from the beginning? Thank you. So this is going to be a brief presentation by myself and Bernadette. I'm going to kind of briefly go over the construction related items. And then once I get through my slides, I will hand it over to Bernadette, and she's going to speak a little bit more related to the residential items that are related to the project. So just to kind of start with a brief project overview for everybody. I know a lot of us are familiar with it, but those of us that are not, Tiny Home Village is located on about 1.5 acres of land at the Albuquerque Indian Center. It's a gated community of 30 homes, each measuring approximately 120 square feet, where 5 of those homes are accommodated to allow wheelchairs. It is only for residents 18 years of age and older. And the houses are designed primarily as living, sleeping space and do not have running water. However, there is a community site on site for meal preparation and personal hygiene needs. The overall cost of the project is approximately $4.9 million, and that includes the design, construction, and then change orders. Next slide, please. Now for the actual update, kind of just going to run through a timeline of where we started and where we're at. The Tiny Home Village announcement was made at a news conference in November of 2016. The lease and operating agreements were approved in June of 2019, and construction started on January 21st of 2020. Substantial completion has actually been obtained on February 5th of this year, and the first resident moved into the facility on February 9th. Our original completion date was September of 2020. However, just due to some of the issues that have arose during the project, our revised completion date is now, or was at the end of February, and I believe we hit that milestone. Just a quick review: the construction as-bid cost was approximately 3.2 million, and our current construction cost is approximately 7.38 million, including all change orders. Next slide, please. So I'm going to kind of go through some project photos, and then just also while the photos are up, also talk about some of the project challenges. And these photos here, you can kind of see the mass grading of the site on the left, and then the photo on the right is where the surveying of the subgrade was being prepared. Some of the challenges that arose on the project had to do with coordination between volunteer groups and general contractor on the project. Those issues were the volunteers kind of had a different timeline from what the general contractor had anticipated. And so there were some delays of getting some of the volunteer work completed, along with allowing the general contractor to kind of work at the schedule he intended. Next slide, please. Next, you have here, you can see some of the footers for some of the individual homes being dug out. And then also we have the concrete elevator pump truck that's being used to install concrete on the site. Some additional challenges that were present had to do with COVID-19 related delays. Obviously that kind of impacted basically the world, as everybody knows. But some of the things that really affected the Tiny Homes Village project had to do more with our suppliers. Some of the materials that were needed on the project were delayed just due to COVID-19 related issues with the suppliers. And so that added some time to the contract. Next slide, please. So this photo on the left is kind of a continuation of what we saw earlier, where the footers have been placed and now they're actually pouring the slab or foundation for a tiny home. And then also the one on the right shows the extended footers that were also required. Currently, the project has had 15 process change orders, which obviously resulted in some of the increase of the cost to go from that 3.2 to 3.8, 3.9 million that I discussed earlier. And those are just kind of the nature of construction in general. And then also with this being kind of a unique project, there was just some elements that came up. Next slide, please. Here we can see, as we get quite a bit farther along on the site, most of the framing is now up on the tiny homes, and they're starting to put on the decking for the roofs. And as we kind of got towards the project, especially trying to get towards substantial completion, some of our issues came up with project permits and building inspection. Those issues had to do with the nature of these homes and this project not really being something that a lot of the building inspectors were used to. And so there was some differences of opinion of how some of the codes were being applied to this project. And so although we didn't agree with all of the issues that came up, these did result in some additional costs related to the project, just the way that was applied to the project as we progressed. Next slide, please. Here we can see the community building as it's nearing finish, and then also the tiny homes themselves, as the buildings themselves are mostly complete. And now they're working on the outside porches leading into the homes. Next slide, please. Here's a much better picture as we get to basically near final completion. Some of the outstanding items that are remaining for the project have to do with the solar panels that are going to be used on site. We have obtained the NOO, and now we're working to get that contractor under contract so they can begin the solar installation. Next slide, please. And here we see the ribbon cutting ceremony that was recently held, where the residents are now able to move into the facility. As I was talking about earlier, some of the outstanding items, currently we do have the fire alarm sensors, and building final inspection is still needed for the bathrooms at the Albuquerque Indian Center. However, that does not necessarily apply to any of the move-in of the tiny homes themselves. And the last thing that we have is improvements to the security system are likely needed, and we're working through that. And the primary focus there is right now residents have to get access through a gate. They have to be let into the facility. And we want to move more towards a badge access just to improve accessibility to the facility. Next slide, please. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Bernadette to go over the residential related stuff. And if needed, I will answer any questions if there are any.
Great, thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Madam Chair, Commissioners, it's my pleasure to give the update on the Tiny Home Village. I wanted to start with the organization of the village. One of the things that's really specific to this and different is that this is considered a self-governed village. So with the oversight of our nonprofit partner for this project, which is the Albuquerque Indian Center, it will be a self-governed village. And with that, if you look at the chart, there's a stakeholder advisory committee, and this is made up of residents at the village, advocates that are advocating for the unhoused. We have the faith community, neighborhood associations, provider agencies that want to sit on the stakeholder committee. And it's meant to be a resource for both the Albuquerque Indian Center and the village, so that when there are issues, we have an array of networks through these individuals that will serve on the stakeholder committee to assist with whatever resources the village may need. Right under that, we have the village board of directors. So this is, if you will, the village council that would oversee all of the work that needs to be done. There's 3 committees under that. We have the resident committee, and they'll look at the daily kinds of activities and needs of the village. So that gets them involved in that, gets them problem solving, working with the Albuquerque Indian Center and staff to make sure that things are running smoothly. Then there's the vetting committee. And you'll see in the next chart that I have that residents themselves will be assigned to the activities of selecting new residents. And you'll see what I mean when I get to the next slide, but that is set up so that they also have some autonomy over who is selected and good fits for the village. And then lastly, we have the Village Support and Oversight Committee. That's the same thing. It's looking for resources that may be needed on any kind of realm. They'll work directly with the resource director and the resource manager, making sure that whatever needs the villagers have, they'll be addressed. Next slide, please. The staff at the village, and this is all overseen and provided by the Albuquerque Indian Center, is the village operations and administrative director, the village resource director who oversees the resource manager, and an occupational therapist. This model that we have chosen has been very resident-centric. So they will work directly with each one of the residents that comes in. We know Historically, that those who experience homelessness tend to have some trauma issues. The occupational therapist was chosen specifically to work with each of the residents, to work with their trauma, whatever that might be, to get them stabilized, look at any kind of physical and or mental issues that they may have so that they are able to better live in a community setting. So a very, very important position there as an occupational therapist. And of course, the resource managers works directly getting them tied into services, Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, whatever that might be. Next slide, please. Okay, so we want to talk a little bit about populating the village and the application process. Resident can be referred in quite a few ways. One is working with the coordinated entry system. This is through the New Mexico Coalition to End Homelessness. We work with providers. The shelters can refer folks over. A community member. So if your neighbor or you yourself says, you know what, I know that person, I talked to the unhoused person on the corner, they would really be a good candidate. A community member can refer them over. And we also take self-referrals. And this goes down and starts this whole process of how we vet residents. We know initially as those come over and we start looking at the initial screening process, there's quite a few misconceptions of what the village is. Folks see it in the paper or hear it on a television show and they don't quite pay attention to everything in particular. The biggest thing is they don't realize that it's just transitional housing. And the second thing is that it is very much program-based. So not everybody is ready to work on a program, work on their life goals, things of that nature. So it's very specific in terms of folks that would fit into the village itself. And I'll go over some of those challenges later. But if we look at the top with the THV Resident Selection Committee, this is where the residents will get involved. We'll have 3 of the residents sitting on that committee. Also somebody from the stakeholder committee, which I think is very important. And it'll go through the different areas you go down. Once they make it through an initial screening, they'll have a Zoom interview. This often also has been face-to-face. The resource manager is really good working with folks. She does that initial one. She works with the occupational therapist and the director on vetting those. If everybody says, hey, this looks like a good fit, they'll start the medical exams, background checks, and of course, COVID checks. We have those in there as well. They'll do a final interview, and then they will then let the resident know and or provider, if the provider is the one who referred over the resident. So they will let them know whether they've been accepted or not accepted. One of the things I do want to just bring up in terms of residents for the village, there's several criteria. One is that they have to be 10 days clean and sober. They will have a 90-day probationary period, make sure that they're a good fit for the village. They can keep up with what the rules are, and they participate in all of the programming. To date, we have 62 applicants that have applied. We have 12 active applications right now, and we should, within the next 5 days, within the next week, have 5 new residents, is what it's looking like right now. We expect that the village is fully occupied by June. I wanted to talk lastly about some of the challenges that we have because of several things. One, because of the population that we're dealing with. 2, their daily lives that they have to deal with today. before they're in the village and how difficult that is. And just a reminder that this is not a shelter. It's not like anybody can come in, we're going to fill those spots. It's very specifically tied to the programming. So in there lie some challenges, right? You saw in there that they need to get medical checks and backgrounds. That includes COVID tests. I don't know if you're like myself or other folks that even need to get a medical appointment with their doctor. Sometimes it takes a lot of time. So that's a big challenge in the timeline, is getting people to their medical appointments, getting those scheduled and so forth. So that sort of extends out the timeline. The other thing is, you know, they're very vulnerable living on the streets, and often their items are stolen out of their places where they're camping. When that happens, they often lose their cell phone, their very important paperwork that they need, those kinds of things. So that has happened in some of the sweeps that have happened in the city of Albuquerque. And when that happens, then we have no way to find these folks. So they may have put in an application, we have a number, and we can't get through to them. So what we tend to do is let the Albuquerque Indian Center office know. That way, if they go there, it's like, aha, okay, we found them and we can continue on with the process. So those are just some of the challenges that we have in trying to get the village populated. So we're working very hard on that, and we are happy with the quality we have thus far, and we'll just continue on with the process. And again, it does take time, and we hit those challenges along the way. And I am done, so I am open for any kind of questions.
Are there any questions? Barboa.
Hi, thank you, Ms. Miera, for this great update. I did just and I think I heard some of these, but I don't quite remember the question. So when we say medical check and background check, what are they checking for?
So on the medical end, we want to see what exactly, what are their challenges, both mentally and physically, so we can help them and assist them with whatever needs they need for those. So that's the biggest thing. We also check for any communicable diseases. So we want to make sure that they're clean when they come into the village along with COVID, and everything is clear for them to move in, and it's in the safest way possible.
So not that maybe you probably, I'm sure you all already thought of this, right? But is there things that are partnerships with the University Hospital or something that could have those on site, so that if they're just simple, you know, well checked?
Right. So we've worked both with the UNM Clinic, which is right on the same street, really important strategically where we place this village, right? So we talked to them very early on. They're ready to partner. However, when it came to the logistics of trying to get an appointment, we were not given preference. They will not go on site to do the appointments at this point in time. We may have, though, a connection with UNM residents and interns, and that needs to be followed up on, that those interns were willing at one point to come onto the village and to help with those kinds of things. So trying to verify that would be an ideal situation. So hoping that comes to realization.
Yeah, one more thing, Madam Chair, Commissioners and Mrs. Miera. The background check, are there things that would prohibit that? Like, is the background check a criminal or credit? Like, what is the background check?
Sure.
Are there things that prohibit them from being accepted?
Sure, Madam Chair, Commissioner Barboa. It is a general background check. It is a criminal check. What we won't take is any kind of sexual predator kinds of convictions. That is one of the things that they're very vulnerable on the street. And when doing the surveys with the homeless, it was very clear that that is something that was particularly sensitive. So by far, we cannot take folks that have any kind of sexual abuse or extreme violent kinds of charges, or convictions, shall I say.
But otherwise, like Madam Chair and Ms. Miera, that just so other crime, misdemeanors, petty crimes, those wouldn't disqualify somebody from being part. It's basically sexual violent crimes.
Right. Right. Madam Chair, Commissioner Barboa, that is correct. So any misdemeanors, any of those, we're able to work with. Again, those are the two pieces, right? Anything violent, any kind of sexual abuse.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair, for bringing this, and thank you, Mrs. Miera and others for all the work on this, and O'Malley for getting this going. And I'm happy that this is in my district. I think it's beautiful, and I'm excited to even try and connect with the folks in the village. So excited.
Thank you.
Commissioner Casada.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask some questions based on the COVID testing. Is that something you do weekly? I just, because they're all in one area, and that's where they live in an acre and a half or whatever the square footage. I think it is an acre and a half. And they go out into the community, they come back. How often are they being tested for COVID? And if they're not being tested, on a regular basis, is there something we can do to mitigate that?
Yes, Commissioner, Madam Chair, Commissioner Casada. We are following procedures that Richard Clark had reviewed for us and how we move forward. So we're very comfortable with that. They get the initial COVID check through First Nations and other organizations. So that's working out fine. They're coming through pretty quickly. Once they're in the village, right now, they are set in place for 30 days without going out of the village. We want them to settle in, they get to know one another. For those first 30 days, there's no extra checks. However, they will be temperature checked daily. If they do have a temperature, they'll be asked to isolate for 10 days and get another COVID check. So that's basically how we're handling the COVID.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
Bernadette or Brian, I just have a few nuts and bolts questions. I know you probably said this, but what's the maximum capacity? How many tiny homes are in the village?
There's 30 homes, 10 of which are designated for couples. So the population will never be above 40.
Okay. And what's the percent occupied now? I know I had seen a news story that residents were moving in, so I'm curious what it's up to now.
Madam Chair, I don't have a percentage right now. We have 3 residents in. We expect 5 more within the week, and then we're going through the applications. So as I mentioned, we had 62 active applications, and we just opened up another phase of application, so we're expecting even more in. So I think we're set and on the way. Again, it's been very challenging in terms of what those that have been applicants face on the streets and being able to keep that connection going. So I think we're at a good point where we're able to work through all the kinks and work directly with the Albuquerque Indian Center, who oversees this, because it's sort of, there's 2 pieces, right? Over at the Albuquerque Indian Center, they do the services that they have. They have their own administrative and office, and then the tiny home village has their own. So what the resource manager is now doing is making sure that those applicants on the initial interview, that they know if they lose their phone numbers or anything, there's some kind of disconnect, they will then go to the Albuquerque Indian Center so we can make sure that we're getting in touch with them.
Okay, and I have one last question. I think I saw also in a news article that there was a call for donations of certain items. Is there anything that the community can do to help at this point?
Madam Chair, yes, actually monetary donations work best. And that is our main campaign. We've gotten pretty much everything that we need in terms of donation. We will specifically work through the Albuquerque Indian Center website that has the page for tiny homes on anything specific that we need. People have been very, very generous, both monetarily and with physical items. The kitchen is well stocked. We have furniture within the village house. We have also outside furniture to go on the decking, things of that nature. We even have donated art. There was a group of artists that have donated art from a variety of different artists to be able to hang within their unit as well as the village house. So we're very, very pleased at the generosity of everyone.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Bernadette and Brian. That was an excellent presentation.
Madam Chair, you're very welcome. Thank you.
And
Thank
now
you.
moving on to behavioral health update for FY21 third quarter. Margarita Chavez Sanchez to present.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, tonight we have a general overview and an update of the Department of Behavioral Health Services and a number of our moving programs. I'd like to apologize first. I also have my nephew here. My sister is pregnant and had to emergently go to the hospital for a checkup. So I have my nephew here with me. So we're gonna get through this together. He might be joining our presentation. So I'm gonna share my screen quickly. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Okay. So I wanted to start with providing a Care Campus renovation update. As all of you know, we've provided some information before, but we have two phases of this renovation. The first phase will provide a new detox unit, and so it is a brand new building. So our current detox service will move out of the current space, which is, for those of you who have been to the campus, is almost like a gym floor. It'll move into this new building that is going to be built specifically to accommodate a detox-based service, including semi-private rooms. So those semi-private rooms are something that we will be adding, and it's actually through feedback of the clients that we've served. After the third day, when the clients are feeling better and they've gotten over the most difficult component of the detox, having an opportunity to be in a semi-private room allows them some more privacy, a little bit more comfort, so that they're willing to stay with us for a longer period of time and really engage in a full 10-day process of that detox. Now, the existing space that, again, is similar to a gym floor will be repurposed, and that will become our observation and assessment unit. So every client who comes to the Care Campus for Services will go through that observation and assessment unit. And within that observation and assessment unit, we will begin to expand our capacity of our existing public inebriate intervention program, or our PIP program. Right now, that PIP program, prior to COVID, has a capacity of 20 clients. This observation and assessment unit will increase that capacity from 20 to 60. So that'll be a huge increase in the amount of clients that we can help. And these are the folks that are kind of public intoxicants. They're brought to us by law enforcement or first responders, and they have the ability to self-report. Actually, majority of our clients self-report to the public inebriate program. Again, really excited about the fact that we can add that service, add the volume of service there. And right now, our PIP program is specifically tailored to the evening hours. So we PIP clients and we bring them in roughly starting at about 6 p.m. With the observation and assessment unit, we will be able to have 24-hour utilization of that service. So that's really exciting for us as well. Again, as a part of that phase 1, we will be having the second floor on the west wing of the second floor will be dedicated to administrative offices. And so we're really excited about the utilization of that service as well. And something that's not listed and not part of this renovation is that we are going to expand the north and east wings of the building on the second floor to accommodate a service that was actually brought to our attention by the manager and brought to our attention by former Commissioner Colley around really being able to provide services for clients who are in that transition age, who are needing some continued support. So right now we have our supportive aftercare program, and those clients are welcome to come into that program, but the services are not tailored to that population, so they're not always successful. So the utilization of those wings on that second floor and repurposing those to really focus on that transition age 18 to 24 population will really help to provide that service for that is a huge gap in the community. We see this right now, particularly in young adult court, where they are continuing to have major issues with these clients being able to access care. Now the second phase, I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear all the Coco Melon video that I just gave him on my phone, I apologize. So the second phase is going to be, again, completed at the end of December 2021, and that will allow us to have an outpatient behavioral health clinic on the care campus. So the general public can access that outpatient behavioral health service, and we know that the outpatient behavioral health services are in dire need in the community. So adding that on our campus for not only our existing clients to access, so clients that come to detox or are in SAC to access, but also for the general public to access those services as well will be huge. We'll also be able to do MAT, provide Suboxone maintenance out of that clinic, so that will be a great resource for our community as well. We will be adding a living room program, and that will be similar to a peer drop-in. It will be driven mostly by peers there on the campus as well. And we will have a training facility on that new building. So our phase 1 of this program will also give us just some images here for you all to see the renovation in that phase 1. The schematics on the left side, that's what the end product will look like once we're done. And then the pictures on the right side just show some of the progress. There's a big hole where that pile of scrap metal is. Right now there's a new building there. So if you drive by the campus, you'll see there's been a lot of progress. Phase 2, again, this is kind of that training room, living room, and outpatient clinic. This will be the build out for the first and the second floor by design as well. So all of you have a copy of these slides to kind of dive a little bit more into detail of these pictures and the schematics. So brief update on our CARF accreditation. Since we do have our CARF accreditation now, we are going through processes to become a Medicaid billing provider. So it'll take us a little bit where the new positions that you just approved on the consent agenda are to allow us to begin that process, to hire a biller, to hire some more accountants to help us navigate that. But that will be huge in adding a revenue source for the department. We have begun doing safety drills and are working with risk management and emergency operations to help us add, bomb threat drills, active shooter drills, all of the different safety precautions that we want to add for our department as a requirement of our CARF accreditation. Our crisis stabilization unit is growing. As you all know, initially the response, the referral was only for those UNM providers. Since this rolled out, we have expanded that. We now receive clients from Presbyterian, we've received clients from Loveless. We're working on a relationship with the VA and are adding private payers to that as well. Now, with that, we have really begun to dive in and audit our charts. So this Department of Health licensure is helping us to really expand the service on the campus. So this slide is just a number of updates that we want to add to the platform here. We have a District 2 Town Hall. Commissioner Quesada will be working with us. Sorry. So we have the multitasking here. So we have the District 2 Town Hall now in March, and then we will be doing District 4 Town Hall in April. And then Commissioner O'Malley, we will be working with you to schedule your town hall. Again, this is just an opportunity for us to speak specifically to your district around behavioral health and answer questions that are really important to your district. Both Commissioner Piscotti and Commissioner Barboa Commissioner Barboa participated in Commissioner Colley's town hall. So we have really been working to do a better job of being out in the community in a virtual way now with COVID to really provide information to the districts on what these behavioral health tax dollars are being used for. And so these town halls, again, are that venue for us to have that dialogue with the community. This past month, Commissioner O'Malley, County Manager Morgus Baca, myself, and representation from UNMH did a NACO presentation really focusing on the RRC. That is available on our website if you'd like to view it or share it with your constituents to provide some information on our services. We'll be presenting at the National Association of Social Workers, the National Council of Behavioral Health is the NatCon conference, and a number of other different organizations upcoming to really provide information on our department. You also have a document in your packet. As you know, we work very closely with UNM-ISR to ensure that we're having evaluations of our programs and that data is informing our next steps. So that packet is the brief that we've received from UNM-ISR on our peer case management program, which is showing great success. And we're going to continue to grow that program and provide resources in the community. So that was a big flyby of our updates. But with that, we'll just stand for questions. Always remember that anytime you want to reach out to us, particularly for constituent concerns, right? It's not uncommon for you to get constituent concerns related to the behavioral health space. If we can deploy any of our teams or resources, we're always available. Or if you are continuously hearing the same type of concerns from the constituents that maybe we need to look at addressing a gap in your area, please let us know, but we're always here to provide the support to the community whenever we can. So with that, we'll just stand for questions if anyone has any.
Terrific presentation, Margarita. Are there any questions? Okay, I don't see Commissioner Barboa.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks, Margarita, for the presentation. I know I participated when you did the District 3 with Commissioner Colley, and I know will there be opportunity in the upcoming district town halls to have an actual dialogue? Because it was sort of one way, which and I know that we were learning in COVID and virtual, but I guess I'm just wondering if there's opportunity in the upcoming or hopefully post-COVID that we'll actually have dialogue in community.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Barboa, the way that we have set up these virtual town halls is maybe a little bit more structured, where we request questions in advance from the constituents, and then I build the answers to those questions into the presentation so that kind of their questions are answered in advance of that dialogue. And then we have kind of like a chat available where people can request other clarity or have other questions answered. As you can imagine, it is difficult to just post like a general Zoom link and kind of everybody kind of blasting and speaking over each other. So that model has helped us to kind of keep that dialogue via a chat as opposed to having 47 people speaking at the same time. But absolutely post-COVID, we hope to go back to in-person and really having an opportunity where we can speak face-to-face with the constituents and help to answer questions in that way. We want to really be able to dialogue. It's actually pretty common for me to get an email that's forwarded to us from one of your assistants, from a commissioner, or actually from Julianne from the county email. And we do have those dialogues or those conversations with constituents in that way as well.
Thank you, Margarita. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just a follow-up comment, in the community work I've been able to do, right? A lot of our folks, especially experiencing behavioral health, may not have access to internet or email or regularly be on things. So, and I understand we're trying to work through COVID and all the things. There are very skilled and easy ways to just have those kind of on Zoom as well. And I understand we're just sort of working through it. One last comment, just a comment. So much of the presentation had a lot of acronyms, which both for myself, but also for our viewers as we're trying to learn and really soak in the knowledge you have, Margarita. A little bit if we can in future times get those named out so we can start to learn from your skill set.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, absolutely. I often forget that I speak in alphabet soup. So happy to make sure that those are edited on the presentation.
Thanks. Chief Perez, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioners, again, I just want to echo the great work that's being done by Margarita and her staff at Behavioral Health. One thing that we didn't place on the program tonight or the presentation was the fact that while balancing all of the activities up there, we're also working on a brand new union negotiation and a contract, which is taking a lot of hard work and effort and dedication to do, but it's also restricting us in some of what we can do as far as future growth right now. So one of the key items is the Resource Reentry Center, which we have a desire and we have had for a while to open that and offer 24/7 support. But right now we can't do that because of the pending negotiations. And until we're able to get to the table and actually get a bid put into place for the RRC, we'll be kind of stuck with what we have. We're under a status quo period right now until we're able to negotiate a full contract. So I just thought it was important for all of you to know that kind of going on behind the scenes, which does kind of hinder a little bit of what we can and can't do until, again, we get that negotiated contract fully done. We go to the table on March 19th for the first round of that, and we're hoping to get something in place relatively fast so that we can continue the amazing expansion that behavioral health is doing and continues to see for the future. So I just wanted to share that little piece with you. But again, great things happening out at behavioral health without a doubt.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you again, Margarita. It's always great to hear the updates from behavioral health, and thank you for all your work. So moving on, if you were hoping for a longer meeting, you're out of luck. Our next meeting is Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021 at 5 p.m. via Zoom. Commissioner Quesada looks upset. He can stay with anybody else who wants a longer meeting. But as for right now, if there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Good night, everybody. Namaste.